Ladies and gentlemen, this is Spike and Jones.
This thing called like the race continuum, right? When people take a look at in terms of cities, they'll do studies and say, yeah, we're in the race of social justice, and like step one is just noticing that there's people of color, in the city. Number two is what's called the food festival.
The what festival?
Food festival. And you can catch yourself because it used to be the old joke like, oh, I know a black friend. I have a black friend, right? That's number two in that continuum, because then it's like we'll laugh and say, yeah, that's when people say, oh, it's February, Black History Month. Well, let's go get some chicken biscuits, right?
Right.
But it's there, right?
Or they say they understand it because they've got black friends.
I can't be racist. I have a black friend.
I know one, right? Right.
He's not a friend, but I know him.
He's an acquaintance, and between 10 and 5, it's great. I go ahead and I socialize with them and everything else, but at 6 p.m. and we're having dinner, I'm not inviting them over there, right? So it's it. But number 3 is really where you're supposed to take a look at the systems that are in place. That's where we have to shift to, because we're all stuck on 2. We get stuck on the social, but what systems are there? What's the structural racism that's there? Because that's really the bigger issue. It isn't so much you and I, right? It's the juvenile justice system, the schools, expulsion rate, all those things. And that's where you're getting a lot of the violence. And because the reality is this, Doug Baldwin talks about this, and that's why he's really talking about there has to be training.
Yeah.
Because really, look, if I'm a white police officer, right? This is why most police officers aren't going to really get they're going to get in trouble for shooting a person of color, because they are truly scared for their lives. They really are.
Yeah.
It's not a fake. I don't believe most of them are coming. I mean,
it's not a political ploy.
Well, it's not like I'm going to be a Seattle Police Department or anybody else so that I can go out there and shoot black people. No, that's not it at all. I mean, there might be one. Who knows? I mean, we all have bad apples in the continuum. But it's really about, okay, I want to protect and to serve, but suddenly because the images and everything I've been taught, now I'm scared of this 6'4" or maybe 5'10" dread-looking person. And they are truly scared.
Right.
So then he's going to go out and he's going to do what he can to protect his life.
So let me bring our listeners into the conversation here, because they would have noticed by now that we would have faded into the conversation. And so we have a very, very special and important guest with us today. He's a great friend of Spike's, and I'd like to ask him to introduce. The problem is we do only have 2 mics today, so there's going to be a little bit of room noise and passing back. But Spike, if you could introduce your friend, and if you're cool with...
I don't know this guy. I thought you brought this guy. No, this is... I want to introduce... And I apologize because I've known you for going on 30 years.
Yep.
And I'm hoping that I don't butcher your name. It's Masvida?
Yes.
Mariere?
Yeah, Mariere.
Mariere?
Yeah.
Thank you. Masvida Mariere. Maz, as I've known him and loved him for a long... Maz. My apologies.
Mausoleum.
Maz is a sports journalist in the Northwest, has been for decades. He and I first met when we had the opportunity to cover the Washington Huskies back in the early 90s during their national championship run. That's how we met, through mutual friends and through a mutual business, our career, our occupation, I should say. And I'll say this with all the love and respect that I intend, although I don't know how much will come through. Maz is one of the few black friends that I have in this town. And that's not saying that I don't like the black people in this town. It's that there's just not many for me. I mean, I don't care, and I'll say this, and it may sound hollow and shallow and full of shit. I genuinely tell myself I don't care about color. I tell myself that. Given the fact that if I was walking with my daughter down the street and a white guy was walking down this sidewalk and a black guy was walking down that sidewalk, it would affect how I react. So when I say I don't care about color, in my heart, that's what I strive for. In the reality of my life, that's clearly not the case. But I've known Maz for so long, and I know who he is as a person. I know what's what's important to him. I know how he treats and acts with people. So in that regard, I don't care what color he is. He's my friend. Yeah. We're at a time in America where Rob and I can, all day long, as deep as we want to, reflect and opine on the racial situation in America. But we met today with Maz for a completely different purpose. We're going to talk a little of the mechanicals of podcasting, broadcasting on different platforms. And naturally, given the environment that we live in today as Americans, as American men, the topic of race came up. And we thought what it would be a true waste of time and a disservice to the people who give us their time to listen to this podcast to not get Maz's perspective and some enlightenment for us on what this all means to another American who has a completely different way life treats him. Fair?
No, that's fantastic, and I think that a couple of things. I think when the fact that we're sitting around and having the discussion speaks well to you, Spike. You know what I mean? As long as we've known each other, Joe, and all those kinds of things. But it's time just to have the discussion, and I'm not talking from the black man's experience. I'm just talking from Masvidal's experience, right? That's all I can talk about. And so, Spike, we're going to hear from your experience, and we're going to hear from yours as well. Rob was
raised in Eastern Washington, fair to say. And were we recording when you were talking about when you met people of color?
No, we were not recording, but I will say this, I'll keep it simple since we're limited to 2 microphones. The reality is I spent my formative years growing up in Eastern Washington where the only people of color I saw were on television. I remember watching the Jackson 5, that sort of thing, and that sounds silly and maybe even cheesy, but it's just my truth. It's how things worked for me. We lived a number of little towns over there, and I'd seen, Hispanic families, Native American families, because that's sort of part of the culture in Eastern Washington. But it wasn't until I moved to Olympia in 1981 that I actually saw my first man of color, so to speak, in high school. And it's not like we become fast friends, but honestly, until I was halfway through college and I decided to leave school and join the Navy, that I was in boot camp in Chicago in the summer of '87 going, well, who are all these people? And then discovering culture and color and, food tastes and all these concepts, all these little things that, sort of are stereotypes that I didn't understand that I'd heard about. I was so ignorant to the whole thing that I didn't have any fear because I didn't know what I was supposed to fear in the first place. So there's that, right? And that's intriguing to me now that I think about it. But I want to share a little something before you guys jump in. And this isn't because I think I'm so awesome or so smart or so cool with people in general. But I have 6 children. And my oldest son warmed the cockles of my jaded heart back in the early 90s. I actually was going through a divorce, and my son came home one day. Actually, I guess it'd be the late 90s, and he was 8. And he said, "Dad, I met this great kid today." And I said, "Oh yeah, tell me about him." He goes, "Dad, he's a football player, and he's awesome, and he's fast, and he's so funny. And he's about as tall as me, but he's way faster than me, and he was just so cool. And I just like him so much." I go, "Oh yeah, well tell me more." And he goes, I don't know if I can tell you anymore, but his name is James, and I just like him. I like him so much, Dad." And I said, "Okay, well, why don't you invite him over?" So a couple weeks later, James and his brother and his mom come over, and the doorbell rings, and I open the door, and there's this beautiful white lady standing there with her 2 black sons. And I thought, oh, I love this. I love that my boy never once said James was a little, see what I'm saying? He never said he was black. He never mentioned color. He only mentioned all these fabulous attributes of him. He never ever saw color. So I guess maybe I was one of those fortunate guys that was so ignorant to the whole thing that it never got programmed in me, so I never programmed it. And our family's very ethnic. My wife is Japanese. I just love the fact that I think it's possible. You know what I mean? And I say dumb things all the time because I have no idea. I have no idea how it feels to be a man of color in Seattle or in Houston or in Atlanta or in Iceland. I don't know, but it's got to be harder than hell. That's my thought.
And Rob, I think that's great, but that's awesome. Because two things come to mind for me is one thing is race is a social construct, right? Like we made it up. It's not something that we're born in, and your son is a good example of that. He didn't see any color. I mean, what he saw was this great friend camaraderie that he played with. And so that's there. But the reality of it is that there has been legislation that has been put in since 1866, right? So that because it's all about economics. At the end of the day, it really is. And so there's all these things that we all need to take a look at and see what's fair. And let Spike jump in. But I mean, if you look at in Seattle in the 60s and 70s, there was redlining, right?
Sure.
And with people where they'd come in and so people of color they had to go to the Navy. That the GI Bill was fantastic. It was the way so that people of color could bring themselves up, right? And they were able to afford a house so that they get some equity and go into education and all those things, right? So America, in of itself, the values that are here are incredible. But what I think the discussion now needs to evolve is there's some of those things that are still in place, some of the legislation that's there. So we can kumbaya all we want, right? But if I walk out there, right, I don't feel, if I see a police officer, right, great police officer, there's a half a second I have to check myself in terms of my behavior that a white person might not. That's just the reality of it.
I saw a video yesterday online. Folks and you guys may have seen this, you folks listening may have seen this. They did a little experiment. Guy filmed his buddy walking down the street with a completely legal AK-40, or not AK, AR-15. The guy had an AR-15 over his shoulder, white guy. His buddy filming him. Cop coming down the street, stops a car. Cop comes up and walks and starts talking to him. Can I ask you for your ID? And believe it, the white guys were not flippant, but why do you need to see my ID? I don't have to show you my ID. I'm not breaking any laws. And the cop's like, well, I just want to know, who you are and why you're walking. Why do you have the rifle with you? And I mean, the guy was not complying. He wasn't being aggressive or in any way, shape, or form, breaking the law. But he was not just bending over backwards to comply with this officer's directions. Okay. I mean, the cop gets out of his car, walks up and starts talking to the guy, asking him for his ID, asking him why he's got a AR-15 over his shoulder. Cut to the second leg of our experiment. You know where this is going. An African-American guy's walking down the street, same gun over his shoulder with a black girl filming it. And a cop pulls up and the cop gets out of his car and draws down on the guy. Get on the ground. Hands on the ground. And all of a sudden, 6 cop cars are coming, and they're coming from all directions with sirens going. The girl, get on the ground, lie face on the ground. She's like, I'm pregnant. He's like, are you filming this? He goes, yes, I'm filming video. I'm filming audio. And I can't lie down on my face. I'm pregnant. Okay. And meanwhile, the cops come over, guns drawn on this guy. They face on the ground, hands apart. They remove the rifle from him. They handcuff him. They did nothing different except be different colors.
Was it the same cop?
No. It was not. But
does it have to be?
Well, I'm sorry we have to jump back and forth with mics here. It doesn't have to be, but I guess what I was trying to say is it would be interesting if it was the same cop, meaning it would take that experiment closer to reality, at least to discover who that cop is, how he felt. I totally get where you're going. I'm just saying that I don't remember the term all of a sudden, but the pool of chance changes when it's the same cop, where that guy, again, what's the ratio? If we did this 1,000 times, and look, I get it. If we did 1,000 times, I bet you that same result happens 998 times. I bet you, right? But so, I mean, we all know where it's going.
Right. And that's the issue. Right. I mean, I think this is
no.
great
I hear
for us to
that.
bring
That may have been the clearest, illustration of your point about, we can all have friends and we can all have the intent to do the right thing and be the right person, but institutionally, we have systems in place. To your point, that are, God. We started talking about white privilege today,
right?
And white privilege blindness. If that's a thing, but clearly. I will never know what it's like to be looked at the way you have been looked at your whole life. I will never know. And I can try to be empathetic about it. I can try to understand it. I can try to see things through your eyes, but until I've walked in your shoes, or more importantly, lived in your skin, I will never know. I will never know what that feels like. And for people to deny, we had a black president, racism is over. Please. We've got a black president. Now racism has to be called to order. Racism got their marching orders when we elected an African-American president. It wasn't put aside. They were ringing the bell of racism. People had to respond. Dwindling white America had to fucking get on their horse and go. Light their torches. And I don't mean to over dramatize shit, but if you look what's going on in the world today, I mean, people say, I don't want to get all political, but was Donald Trump a response to Barack Obama? Absolutely. Absolutely. If a white president is leaving 2 terms and someone's running, Donald Trump's base doesn't react the way they did. I think.
No, that's a fair. It's a fair.
It's a reach. It's my opinion. There's no fact based in it, but it's my opinion.
And that's what's great about what we're having. We're having a conversation. Mm-hmm. There's no right or wrong here. And then that's the beauty of where we need to go, is to start having the conversations. And I'm not right. You're not wrong. That's not what's happening. But Donald Trump, president. Because I like to call him president, because that's what he is. Because when I call him president, then there's a certain type of behavior that's expected, right?
Right.
There has been 44 other great men before him, right, sitting in the greatest seat in the world. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I do have some expectations that the commander-in-chief of the greatest nation in the world should behave. And I have a right to say he's not behaving that way, just like he goes and does what he needs to do as president of the United States. But getting back to your point in terms of the Donald Trump constituents and people coming up, and you know what, it's good. To be quite honest with you, we need to be where we're at as the greatest nation, because we need to heal and move on, right? Because we can really lead the world and show we have, right? And we're not going back. We don't have to make America great again. We just have to go forward and continue our progress. So that comes the issue to me in terms of the president of the United States. And really what we need to do is just go back and talk about the kindness. Because if we go back there and we really treat each other with respect, mm-hmm. then I think it's different. And lastly, Spike, the whole sense of white privilege is this. I can go to a Starbucks, right? Right, or mm-hmm. coffee, if you will. I can go to a coffee shop and somebody can treat me in a way, right? Mm-hmm. Can be rude to me, right? You can go to the same person and they can treat you rude. Now, here's the difference. For me, I have to figure out, okay, was that person treating me that because of my skin color? Right. Not just because of that interaction, because it might have happened 3 or 4 times.
Right.
Whether it was me driving up there. You don't have to look at that, right? I mean, you look at it and say, well, man, was I rude? Were they rude? And call it a day. Right. I've got the extra layer that's there.
Right.
And so what a lot of people of color are saying, you know what, I'm tired.
Right.
I really am. And people don't want nobody to feel guilty. It isn't about past sins or anything like that. It's just be cognizant of that fact. And that's what we need to do, is to move forward in that regard.
Yeah.
Well, that's well put, and I agree with you. In that regard, I fear not so much that our president is living up to the standard I think we all deserve to expect of that office.
Absolutely.
The people that he has put in place. Our Attorney General is rolling back the clock on civil rights, on, incarcerations, on so many things.
It's our chance to get back I mean, and I'm not saying mine because this is not my. I mean, look, he's my president, but he's not my president. If that makes sense.
I hear you.
He's your president.
Right.
He's your
I know.
You don't get the right to say he's not.
I know. But he doesn't represent me in the sense of my personal beliefs.
So what are you
going
to do about it? What you going to do about it?
Talk about it. That's about all I got. It's about all I got, buddy.
What are you doing in 2 years from now?
Voting.
Yeah, no.
I mean, I get it. I mean,
the fact that we're having this discussion is a tribute to you, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, but we got to get the gloves out a little bit.
No, I agree. It's not supposed to be easy. That's the problem with America. When you roll over, right? All you're saying is that's too hard to deal with. I don't want to, and guess what? I don't have to. I can pay my way out of it. So let me say something. This has nothing to do with color, okay? Mm-hmm. But yesterday I was in Bellevue, and I'm going to be very careful where I say I was because I don't want it to insinuate a specific person, but a specific individual I know broke a lot of federal laws back in 2003 to 2009. Lots of them. And this person served time. Okay, so I'm not like hiding this person. But this person took people for over $50 million. Okay, did a lot of evil stuff. Okay, in the housing market, and this person went to prison. Along with a few other his cohorts. And 2 years later, I was walking into a building in downtown Bellevue, and I was actually talking about him, no less, literally talking about him in the elevator as I was going up to the penthouse to go visit a businessman that I knew up there. And when the door opens, the man who was in prison is standing right in front of me. And I look at him, and the first thing I said is when did you get out? And he said, a couple weeks ago. And I said, how? And he goes, paid. And I was like, oh my God. He bought his way out of prison. He stole $50 million.
Right. Well, that's no different than people buying their way out of military service.
But if Maz has $50 million, he's not buying his way out of prison.
Oh, yes, he is. Oh,
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
I don't know. OJ didn't buy his way out of prison, and OJ has a shitload of money in his life insurance.
Well, hold on. Here's the thing. Let's
lit a fire.
Let's take color. Let's take color out of this for a second. We're talking about. I'm not saying that guy who screwed people out of $50 million didn't commit a heinous crime. Yeah. But it's a white collar crime. It's a nonviolent crime. I agree. If that guy was black and had done $50 million worth of financial crime, and gone to jail and had the money to make restitutions in whatever forms they saw, whether he was black or white, with that kind of money, a black guy'd be out.
Yeah, but he didn't. But he didn't make restitution.
How do you know? He said he bought his way out.
He bought his way out legally
with the best lawyers.
With attorneys. He didn't.
A black guy couldn't. A black guy couldn't buy the best lawyers.
I'm just saying it pisses me off. No. It pisses me off.
But here's the deal. Okay, great. Now you got to understand why the structural racism is in place, because you're both right? Thank you, because this is exactly why we have to look at what laws are in place, because if you have the wealth and you have the ability, you have the money, you can. OJ got out, right, the first time, right?
And OJ also committed a crime of violence with guns.
Assumptively.
Well, assumptively. I'm not talking about the murders. I'm talking about why he went to jail.
The second time.
Yeah, here's the deal.
The actual crime he committed.
Well, I mean, here's the deal. If we look what's on paper, this guy was accused of murder, right? He was not convicted of murder, right? He had one of the greatest probably attorneys forever, right?
He was convicted for threatening action.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I'm not, conspiracy or not, but then down the road, there's another crime that he committed, right?
But don't you think he got extra time for that violent action because of the original one that he didn't get caught for?
That's a makeup call.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because when you look at it, he got off the criminal charge, but then got hit with the civil charge.
That's absolutely
right. So it still goes back to the fact that black man did that stuff. That's how they see it.
But hold on,
right?
Hold on. But think, well, to your point,
this is fun.
He got off on the murder charge because of money.
That's right.
Sure.
I mean, that's, you're talking about white guys and black guys with. I mean, it was all about money. The
And
reason
then
he's not in jail.
how dare you, green person, get off? How dare you circumvent the system I created to put you down?
Yeah.
And you think I'm gonna let you?
Yeah.
You could litter.
Yeah.
And we're gonna come after you.
By the way, this is how you keep your money: is you put it in life insurance. Just so you know, that's how OG kept his money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His attorneys, his white attorneys and accountants taught him back in the 70s how to take his NFL pension and invest it into life insurance, because when your money's inside of your life insurance policy, it can't be taken away from you in a lawsuit.
Or civil action.
Civil action.
And that's exactly going
Still has all his
back.
money.
That's and
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I'm not touching whether he should or not, but that's exactly why we're where we're at. There's these certain laws that are there, but at the end of the day, the race construct was it's about economics. At the end of the day, it really was about economics. Let me give you a history lesson for a second, right? I'm going to get deep with you for a second, because if you look back in slavery, what did they do in the plantation? What did they do with the dominant male? What happened? What did they do?
They bred the dominant like it was property.
Right. And what did they do when he bred it, and then him and his family became a family? What did they do?
They sold off the assets.
They moved him to the next one.
Right.
Right. So there's fear in both. Right. So now there's fear in the family that as soon as you are close, I've got to separate from you. And that's deep in our society. That really is, because it was all about trauma. So you've got all these people brought up on the trauma. Now, fast forward to that guy, the police officer, right? And police officers are tremendous. I know so many. I worked with them for 30 years. Vic Minor comes to mind. John Hayes comes to mind. Cookie Baldwin. I mean, I can name you that are just doing work, that are doing the work, right? But the point is that, so if that's where I'm coming from, if that's what I'm used to, right? This big person, I'm going to react that way. So we've got to look at the education. What is it that you're seeing in terms of the academy, right? Mm-hmm. But some people are saying, look, we don't have time, right? There's no time to educate, because what's happening is people are getting shot up.
Right.
Well, the problem too is that, I mean, as the world increases, right? It's that whole, as the world turns, there's always more people. There's always more potential, because there's literally more people. I mean, if you go back 150 years, why is there less problems? Why? Because we've been.
That is no
Come
way.
on
I'm
now.
calling you on that.
No way.
I'm calling you on that.
I'm not saying from a percentage.
No,
I'm just saying, what do we see?
We're having fun, so
right.
So let me have some
but
fun
we
with
definitely
you.
have to be. I mean, when you get down to it, don't you agree that
Is there more money now than before?
Yeah.
Is there more wealth? So why is it that the world is good when it comes to us getting, right?
Oh, I'm
But
not
an
saying it's
issue.
good.
well, I mean in terms of income wealth,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
But when it comes to, like, there's an issue in terms of, well, part of the reason why we're having all this violence is because there's just more people.
Right. I guess it's a lot of everything. There's more everything, right?
Right.
I mean, if you get down to it, if why was Vietnam such a negative, right? Because it was televised. You know, if you televise World War II, in other words, if we didn't have propaganda films that were screened before
Right.
Bugs Bunny cartoons, and they were telling us the Japs are coming to blah blah blah, and the kooks are blah 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 blah.
Right.
If we didn't have that, we wouldn't be necessarily. I'm not saying we wouldn't be, but we wouldn't just be hailing it as the greatest generation. We'd be saying, okay, my grandpa killed a whole bunch of kids because he went and shot up a German church, and that's shitty. You see what I'm saying? It's because we don't know about it. We're just told about it, and we're given a story. And I'm not saying it's a false story,
right?
But we're given a story so we can get behind it, right? It can embellish our patriotism.
Well, that's absolutely right.
Right. And so, but this, whether we like the phone or not, with a smartphone, Facebook Live, whatever you want to call it, it exposes what's going on right now. And nobody wants to see that.
Exactly.
It gets louder.
Exactly.
It lets the small minority, the vocal minority, the 2% that actually would freaking shoot themselves if Donald Trump died, because it's the end of the world to them. But they're the loudest ones going, yeah, man, yeah.
I don't know if it's 2%.
I'm not saying it's two, but
No,
you
no,
know,
I know.
but the belligerents, that majority that just real, the minority, that loud minority exists on both sides. But because of this, they both get a dialogue. They wouldn't have this dialogue if these didn't exist.
And I think it's time for us then to take a look at, okay, so we hold these truths to be self-evident. So there they are, right? Mm-hmm. So as opposed to, it's going back to kind of what you said with the police officer, right? So was it, in Spike's example, you're like, was it the same police officer? No. What we have is disproportionality of certain people getting treated a certain way. Why can't we just deal with that? Why do we have to say, well, what were you wearing? Sure. Where were you?
He had a hoodie and some Skittles and iced tea.
You know what I mean? Like
weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah. Why can't we just be a clearing? Yeah. Why can't we be the clearing for compassion and say, I got you? If your son came up to you and said, Dad, you know what? I'm sick today. You wouldn't go, well, are you really sick? Are you half sick? Or, you wouldn't do that, would you?
That's perfect.
Yeah. And I think there's just in the passing in terms of why, now there's a person why people say Black Lives Matter, right? The reason Black Lives Matters is out there is they're saying, look, we're not on an even playing field. There's a certain part of society that looks at this sector, this population, and is not giving him the same value.
Yeah,
Let me see if I can pull this off in your family. Let's say your daughter, yes, I think I got this. So what would look like in your house is if your daughter had in her room, you have a daughter, right? I figured out 1 out of 6, had a room that says daughters matter. Right. Well, the first thing you would do is you would say, "Hey, why are you putting that up?"
All kids matter.
Right. Yeah. You right. You wouldn't go, "All kids matter." That's not what you would. You say, hey, "What's going on? Why are you putting this up?" Well, yeah. But you would at least have some, go find out why, right? You wouldn't say, I love y'all, and that's the end of it.
I saw a meme on Facebook, and memes can be horribly evil, and they can also get right to the fucking point.
Can be?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. So I see a meme somebody made of Houston needs our help. Houston's underwater. And somebody wrote, all cities matter. You see how fucking stupid that sounds now? Houston needs our help.
Yeah.
So Black Lives Matter is an equation to that. Of course, all lives matter. But to Maz's point, Black people need our help. It's not a level fucking playing field. Somebody said, Kim Jong-un got a nuclear bomb. Oh, what does it matter? Bombs don't kill people. Kim Jong-un's the problem. See how fucking stupid that sounds?
Yeah.
People say that, it's not a gun that kills. Bullshit.
Yeah.
It is a gun that kills. You give a madman a butter knife and 500 fucking people aren't wounded and 58 people aren't dead in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guns fucking matter.
Yeah.
And not to be going too sideways on, we're not even going down that rabbit hole today. We started this conversation with Maz this morning because we were pointing about the Colin Kaepernick story. There was a headline, and I forget which website. Was it MSNBC or NBC?
Yeah,
MSN?
MSN, yeah.
A GM in the NFL, I think it was the Titans, admitted that they would not hire Kaepernick because they didn't want the circus. And Maz and I were debating whether or not that was a racially charged statement. And to Maz's point of me not being able to see his perspective, I don't see that as a racially charged statement. I see that as a GM saying, look, it's hard to win a championship. The distraction of a protest might be just enough of a distraction to cause my team, the margins are so thin between winning and not winning in the NFL, the circus distraction might be enough to cause our team from not winning a championship. The circus is why he's not hired. Maz saw this, if I may, his Kaepernick's protest is being labeled a circus.
And because the other part of that was the Cam Newton story, right? I mean, Cam said some things that were really disrespectful that we all are like, you know what, that's just, we're not going to accept that. We're not going to accept disparaging comments about women. And he's came out and apologized. But right now, we're not going to go into that. It was putting the two together. So you've got this person over here who justifiably is getting chastised for his comments. But on the left is this other individual who has no job, right? Because they're saying it's a circus. But yet you can't have it both ways. You can't say, man, you're a circus because you're standing for equality and social justice and everything else. And yet on this side, when somebody does that, you're like, yeah, wow, that guy's an idiot. How does that work?
He actually is being the circus.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's change the circumstance and keep the circus. A guy who was it Hardy? the guy, the domestic violence
Yeah,
guy.
okay.
Couldn't get a job in the NFL.
Right.
And of course, maybe that's the wrong example of domestic violence, but the circus that comes with hiring that guy. Maybe it wasn't domestic violence. Maybe it was a drug issue. Maybe it was whatever. But the media circus that comes with hiring that guy is why GMs don't want to pick him up.
Is it okay? Going back to your point, right?
Uh-huh.
He's talented. I thought this was all about winning. And now, before, I'm not saying that your behavior off the field doesn't matter, right?
Right.
But if the first thing we're saying is about, you know what, it's winning, your margin of error is small, so I want talent, right?
Right.
So there's you're weighing out two things, right? Talent and then the distractions that come with it.
Right.
I submit to you there's more of a distraction by your players if they're seeing that you're not getting the best possible player out there.
That's a fair argument. It'd be hard to argue against that argument. I mean, it's funny. We keep going round and round about this as a country. I mean, I see people who counter the kneeling protest of the national anthem by African American players, and they counter that with
white.
And white. I agree, but the vast majority, the outliers, are the whites who are brave enough,
right,
and conscientious enough to support their teammates. But I see people who counter that with a list of the NFL's players who have convictions or criminal activity. The NFL was fine with this guy being domestic violence, this guy having a drug thing, this guy having DWIs. But now the NFL has a conscience. I mean, that's their argument against the protest, which just is insulting as fuck to me. It was funny. Last Sunday at the Seahawk game, I get into it with a friend, and I say get into it. A guy I know who's a veteran, and he says to me, "So how you feel about the knee thing?" And he's waiting because he knows me and he knows how I feel. And I said, "Okay, I'm a kneel guy. I'm a take a knee guy." He's like, "You're a First Amendment guy." I said, "Of course I'm a First Amendment guy. There's a reason it's the First Amendment. There's a lot of amendments and they're all important, but the first fucking thing they wanted to make clear was the right to speak up. Free speech, free expression. That's the most important to me. Just my opinion. But I think since they put it first, maybe they agreed. Okay? So, the right to speak up is nobody fought for the flag. Nobody fought for the anthem. It may be motivating to these people who defend our country, and I'm sure that it is. But when our president says people fought and died for this anthem, no, they didn't, you fucking idiot. They fucking fought for the right for that guy to take a knee. Most veterans, I think, will agree with the fact that we fought for our liberties, our freedoms, which include the ones you don't like. I said to this guy at the game, I said, "Look, you can't just like the rights you like. You got to get them all. There's a scene in the movie American President. You got to defend a guy's right to burn the flag. You got to defend that. That's as much that makes your blood boil. That's as much a right as you standing up and saluting it." I said, "I'm a take a knee guy." I said, and portraying these guys as anti-American, as anti-flag, as anti-military, anti-police is a cowardly chicken shit way to try to win the argument. Yeah. These guys aren't anti-country, anti-flag, anti-military, anti-police. The fuck no, they're not. They're anti-civil rights violations. They're
social justice for all, women as well.
Right.
Women as well.
So, and this guy, "Well, I appreciate we can agree to disagree." And 5 minutes later, he brings over his buddy. Ask him what he thinks about the anthem. Yeah. Ask him what he thinks about the anthem. He wanted me to have my same diatribe to his other buddy who couldn't see the player's point of view. And we went through it. And I said, "Look, I love you. You can disagree and I'll disagree, but that's what they're fighting for. Your right to feel like you feel. And my right to feel like I feel. And their right to take a fucking knee." I was telling Maz this week, I said, the right solution for this, everybody stands for the anthem, arm in arm. And at the end of the anthem, everybody in that fucking team takes a knee. Every player, coach, staff member, the whole team. We all feel you. Everybody takes a knee.
And that's why I'll sit and chat with you at a coffee shop any day, Spike, because you go grab you make an impact on one person, and then another white guy comes over and have the discussion. But let me ask you guys something.
White?
let me ask you. Look at this scenario that happened right before the anthem, right? The protest. Jamel Hill came out and said the president was a racist. A racist. Right. She didn't use her ESPN account. Did not. Right. Mm-hmm. She was off work, right? Okay. And then the White House they have done everything they needed to do to run the country, right? Unemployment, all was done for them to say that's a fireable offense. Now, they didn't say she should be fired, right? So you had that. A week later, you had the president of the United States calling a woman he doesn't know a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me, how did that get by all of us?
I literally don't understand how anybody can say it's okay. That's my guy. How they can raise their hands in victory. How they can. I literally don't understand it. Look, I didn't vote for Trump. I'm happy to say I didn't vote for Trump. I still recognize, being a former military guy doing 7.5 years in the service, that he is the leader of our country.
But how? Well, hold on. I'm sorry. How can your commander-in-chief, who we believe in, call in his official office, call a public citizen a son of a bitch?
I know.
And all of us are fine with that.
But we're not. We're not all fine with it. We just don't have any power, or we're chicken shit.
Yeah, because where else do we see that happening in other countries?
To each of your point, I don't think we're all fine with it. And I think to Rob's point too, I don't see how people can be fine with it. But there are people who are. That's my guy.
Yeah.
It's more than 2%, but it's not quite the 37% in the polls. People who still support him for whatever reason, I can't. It's beyond my ability to fathom. But there are a percentage of that, so that's my guy. It's okay for him to call somebody a son of a bitch, because that son of a bitch isn't respecting our flag.
Yeah.
That's how they framed it.
So, oh man, this just came to me. So, the president of the United States calls a woman a son of a bitch, and a football player, right, disparages a reporter. And we're more worried about the football player, which again were comments that were.
I get it.
Can I just do a mic drop and call it a day?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
but do we really get it, or are we pacified?
Did anybody see Zoolander? You saw Zoolander. Did you see Zoolander? I know it's a white movie.
Did you see Shaft?
Yes. I'm waiting for Chris Rock to make the remake of Zoolander.
There you go.
Well, all I was going to say is there's that great line at the end of Zoolander where Will Ferrell says, "Am I the only one who doesn't understand? There is no blue steel. There is no other look. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills." And that's what I feel about our country right now. There's, again, this loud minority that, because look, the reality, dude, is people are afraid to take a chance or a stand at anything, because most people are path of least resistance.
But I submit to you, I know some African-American athletes that are not afraid to take a passive stand.
Agree. And I'm proud of them. I look at this whole thing and I say, I'm
proud of us? How about, can we be proud of us?
There you go. It's all about us, buddy.
Because it's
them.
Good for you. Now run along.
I think you should be able to do. I mean, I don't want to say anything, but I think you should certainly be able to protest without feeling like you're going to lose your job or being called son of a bitch or whatever. But the reality is we all know too, the right to protest also includes the right to be told you suck. You shouldn't be able to be fired for protesting. But
actually you can. You can. Let's take a look.
I don't think you should be able to.
I think you should.
You think you should be able to be fired if you protest?
I think it's a workplace thing.
Oh no, I totally get
so
that.
So if your workplace allows you,
but the workplace is allowing them.
That's
to
what
do
I'm saying.
That's what I'm getting at.
And that's a different perspective, and it's real important to see that, because for me, look, the right to protest. What does it say? Right, the First Amendment says that that you have every right to protest as long as it doesn't incite violence, or because
there are limits to free speech.
You yelling fire in a thing, because that's exactly the Supreme Court's case.
Right. Well, you have the right to free speech, but you are not free from the consequences of your speech.
And you can't yell fire because the case is you can't yell fire in a theater.
Right. And to Colin Kaepernick's situation, and
unless there's a fire,
the story we talked about, you better fucking yell fire in a theater if there's a fire. The story we first started talking about today was the GM of the Titans saying that no one's hiring Kaepernick because of the circus.
Now, it was unnamed. Former
GM of the Titans. Former GM of the Titans.
Because you big time. I don't want you getting called for the tennis.
That's fine. So, the circumstances that he's creating with his protest, The consequences of his protest is why he can't be it can't be hired. No one is not hiring him because he's taken a knee. The consequences of his decision to exercise his free speech, they are causing a media storm that GMs feel would be too much of a distraction to have on their team and still manage to do what it takes to win.
And that's bullshit.
No, it's not.
It's bullshit.
It's
not.
not.
Bullshit. It's a made-up reality.
Whoa.
Some people are.
It is a made-up
not.
reality.
Some people are not hiring him because of who he is and what he is saying.
How much have you gauged the firestorm? Do you know how many reporters are going to be there? How many do you have now? How many did the Tom Brady thing? How many did the Cam Newton? Can you please give me scientific facts that you can say, well, we've done the study, and if 50 of them show up, then it's okay. If 51 to 100 show up, then it is a circus. It's bullshit.
So you think, and I respect your point of view, but you honestly think there's no legitimacy to saying that the circus caused by a player? Look at the Seahawks. You know, their GMs have dictated that, okay, he brings enough to the team in Michael Bennett that, you know, losing him then it's a business decision. He brings enough to the team that we'll take the circus, because being without him is more of a
There's
detriment.
no circus here.
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
There's being without him would be more of a detriment to the team than a circus. And if Colin Kaepernick played like Aaron Rodgers and took a knee, would he be out of the league?
No, because he's white.
Well, thank you.
No,
anyway,
but
if Cam Newton took a knee instead of just, you know, misogynistically ridiculing a female reporter for a valid question, if Cam Newton took a knee, would he be unemployed, or is it because the guy's really, you know, he's a middle of the road quarterback?
Middle of the road that went to the Super Bowl.
Kaepernick.
That went to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Back-to-back NFC championships,
Yes.
and also led the 49ers.
But
he's one of the best quarterbacks that they had in the last 3 years.
Did his play deteriorate before his career went sideways with the knee?
You're absolutely right, Spike. He's the only player in the NFL whose play has deteriorated from year to year.
Those guys lose jobs too.
Who do you have? But not.
I'm arguing both sides now. This is funny.
I know.
I really am. No. He's better than half the guys that are on rosters.
He's better than 85% of the players.
I wouldn't go there.
Oh, the second strings. The second string. He's better than 85% of the second,
that.
right?
He's better than 85%. Easily better than 85%. You're being generous to the second stringers at that point.
So
because the circus.
So I submit to you. Okay, so that's a code word to you.
A circus?
Yes.
Well, see now that
Yes.
see now that's the thing.
No,
that's
what do you mean that's
I wanted
the
to
thing?
talk. No,
Exactly. What's
that's
a
the thing.
circus?
That's the thing that I wanted to talk about before. That's what I wanted to talk about when this morning when
I don't care about room noise. I care about the level of the recording.
This morning when we saw each other across the street and you were showing me the websites,
Right.
the first thing I thought of is the use of the word circus.
That's absolutely right.
That was the very first thing I saw, because I realized, he's being denigrated into something different. We're actually being told subliminally.
That's right.
He's an animal.
That's right.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
that was the first thing I saw. So when you asked me that question, when you were looking at me, I was afraid. I was afraid to even talk about it.
We're doing 60 minutes point count.
Hold on. I know, and I wish we had 3 mics. This is really good stuff. Thank you at home for tolerating our technical challenges of having 2 microphones. The term media circus, would you agree? The term media circus is a industry standard for a crazy, out of control media situation. Would you agree that the term media circus?
I would agree. Could I ask you one question?
Sure.
I agree. And did it say media circus or circus? It didn't say media circus.
I thought it.
Come on now.
It probably just said circus.
Come on now.
It probably just said circus.
Yeah.
I'm sure it did just say circus. Are you trying to imply they weren't implying media circus? I mean, if you want to say his use of the word circus is a derogatory sense of making him less than human and into an animal, I would counter that with to the day I die. They're talking about the media circus and a distraction of attention to a cause away from the team's overall ability to perform on the field.
And I submit to you, this is a general manager, somebody who is pretty proficient in linguistics, in messaging, in branding. Mm-hmm. So the word media wasn't omitted just by accident.
Yeah,
it really wasn't.
I don't know. I think it's really easy to go down this road because of what we've seen in the past, right? And we can't say we're doing better. because we're not.
Yeah.
We're not doing better today. We're just older. Maybe we're doing better in this room. Maybe we're thinking with a little more clarity.
And that's where it starts.
Right. But when you look back at even 94, whether OJ was guilty or not, which we all can probably assume he was, I'm being quiet for a reason, is the fact that when Time magazine did that cover and they darkened that cover, it just flat out proves that it's still us against the darkies.
Because it's the what? Let's go back to the plantation.
Yep.
It goes back there so many times.
We can all say we're doing better, but you know what? We're not.
It's
just different.
It's the demonizing, like you said, demonizing of people, right? I mean,
Right.
the Germans did it, right?
Right.
The United. I mean, we did it with the people that were in the
Japanese,
Philippines.
we did with
and then
Japanese
do the
internment camps.
Japanese
Of course we
internment
did.
camps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
That's
all,
how you rally the troops. Is you get a common enemy.
Us-
That's how Trump got elected. You get a common enemy. You rally his troops. I mean, that's literally how he got elected. It's funny. I can't see. I don't see the omission of the word media as a racial slam.
You went there.
Oh, no. You said
No, all I said-
I didn't say that.
I'm the one who went.
Rob went there, but to let me finish my point.
Right.
This morning we kind of started this, and I love you, man. I've known you for nearly 3 decades, and I respect. I think the world of you. But your whole point was I can't see things from your perspective, and the fact that I look at that headline circus and I read into it media circus, and you may read into it the or whoever. That's
Right.
my inability to see things from your perspective.
Right.
That proves the whole point we started this whole day with. My defense of the ex general manager's statement being not racial clearly just it just illustrates my inability to see things and proves your point.
And absolutely well said. And here's my point, so that is am I saying the GM is racist? I don't know that. You know what I mean? To call somebody racist, I'm not sure that I would go there, because that's not what a lot of us are trying to say is but to say, look, we all have to be aware of the words and the fact that he didn't use media. I mean, it was an intentional branding, because a circus is a circus. If I say media circus, it's a different connotation, right? Then it goes into the business that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Okay, and like, was it 0 to 50, all that. But the fact that the media circus was out was intentional. And even though when Barnum and Bailey, they're almost out, right? Or are they done?
No, I think they're done.
They're done. It was in April last. Okay.
Yeah. So because this has been a caustic conversation today, but a good one, let's end on a happy note, because we gotta pull the plug. We got a late start today. So anything funny you want to share, like a funny story to end the week? I can tell you a funny story.
Please do.
Please do.
So this morning I was using the toilet. Wow. I love how Maz is like, after I was finished, I looked off to the left and I saw there was this, looks like chocolate on the floor, and I have no idea how it got there. And I'm like, okay, so I'm doing my business, and I look over there and I'm like, what in the heck is that? So I reach down and grab it, and it wasn't chocolate. It was chocolatey, but it wasn't chocolate. And it went underneath my fingernails, and I spent about half an hour cleaning the feces out from underneath my fingernail. But the thing is, I need to know where that came from.
Do I laugh now or later?